Chapter 6. Cleaning Up the Streets. At 4:15, I meet Jima by the front door. She hands in her visitor pass at the security desk, and we head out. First stop, Ricky's Market for some sausage, peppers, and onions. Jima's making my favorite subs for dinner. "So how was your first day, Mr. Middle Schooler?" she asked me while we're walking. "Fine," I say. "Excuse me? That was an essay question," she says. "Not multiple choice. You can do better than that." Here's the thing, though. I don't want Jima worrying. The more she knows about Tiny and Ray Ray and how I don't stand up for myself, the more she's going to worry. And the more she's going to watch over me, and the more everyone's going to keep calling me Grandma's boy. And the worse it's going to be for me at school. You see how that works? So I just tell Jima about my classes and which teachers I have and what was for lunch, that kind of stuff. Besides, Jima already has enough to worry about. It's just the two of us, and we don't exactly live in the best neighborhood in D.C. Straight ahead, there's some shady dudes hanging out on the corner. I see them exchanging money and unidentified items in Ziploc bags so fast they could be magicians. Jima and I mind our own business and keep it moving. I know she wants to tell them to take their hustle somewhere else, but even she keeps her mouth shut sometimes. Not for long, though. Now that she's seen Union Middle School from the inside, she's got plenty to say about that. "They should take a bulldozer to that sorry building and start from scratch," she says. "The library alone is a disgrace, and right here in our nation's capital. I'll bet you a nickel if someone told the president what was down here, he'd want to do something about it." And I think, well, maybe. It's not like Union's invisible or anything, and the White House is only 4.3 miles away from our house. I looked it up on Google Earth once. But I don't say any of that to Jima, I just nod my head. To be honest, my grandmother's more like a superhero than I am. Once she makes up her mind about something, you can bet more than a nickel it's going to happen. Well, with a little help, maybe. Chapter 8. The Sugar Shack. A week later, I get in a fight at school, but probably not in the way you think. First, let me tell you about the Sugar Shack. If it's coated or loaded with sugar, they've got it. That's why they call what they call the cafeteria, because that's pretty much what everyone eats there. But it's not all sugar. No, indeed. Everything else is deep fried or comes from a box or a lab or something. Nothing meant for people to be eating, that's for sure. Apple slices and broccoli bites? Nah, you're on your own, kid. The Sugar Shack has everything that's wrong with UMS all in one giant room. It's totally run down, it's crazy crowded, and it can be dangerous if you're not careful. There's mad noise bouncing off every wall. A kid named Reverb is the resident lunch DJ. He hooks his smartphone up to two of those Beats by Dre pill portable speakers. Every lyric being shot from those speakers is uncensored, and none of the teachers seem to mind. They just want to make it through the day without getting into it with any of the students. I don't really blame them. I'd compare the vibe of the room to, I don't even know what to compare it to. Maybe Lagos. That's in Nigeria. It's one of those mega cities with 8 zillion people and the worst traffic jams in the world. Yeah, that seems about right. Most of the kids at UMS get free lunch, including me, which is cool. But that means the food line is always a mile long. By the time I get my lunch, there's usually about 15 seconds left to eat it before the period's over. And today, I don't even get that far. I'm waiting in line with Arthur and our friends Del and Vashon, and we're just standing there minding our own business and talking about if you had to choose, would you rather be Batman or Iron Man? Iron Man, no doubt. I'm all about the flying. Then someone yells out, "Incoming!" I don't know what's coming in, but I duck anyway. Then I hear this splat sound. When I look up, Kwashi Williams has a mess of mashed potatoes running down his front. I look behind me, and Kwashi Richter's standing there looking guilty as sin. Something tells me those potatoes were meant for me, Arthur, Del, and Vashon. "Oh man," Vashon says, "let's get out of here. See, we've got 2 Kwashis in our class, and the funny thing is they can't stand each other. The whole thing's about to go nuclear, you can tell." On the other hand, finally near the head of the line, and I'm starving. Arthur Dell and Vashon don't wait for me to make up my mind. They scatter. Quashi W comes after Quashi R, and the next thing you know, I'm stuck, bam, right in the middle. This is what I was talking about before. I may not be fighting, but I am most definitely in a fight. Some kids start yelling, other kids start throwing more food. It's getting out of control fast. I can even taste blood in my mouth. Wait, no, that's raspberry jello at least. I hope it is. Then all of a sudden, our vice principal, Mrs. Freeman, breaks the whole thing up. That's enough of that, she says. She pulls the quashis apart like a big grilled cheese sandwich, and I'm the cheese. Man, am I glad to see her. I think she just saved my life. Thanks, Mrs. F., I start to say, but she grabs me by the arm. Let's go, all of you, to the office, right now. Huh? I say. You heard me. Move. Before you can blink twice, she's dragging me, Quashi and Quashi, out of the cafeteria and up the hall. The Quashis are still yelling at each other. Mrs. Freeman's yelling too. I'm trying to explain what happened, but it's like shooting a water pistol at a hurricane. Nobody really notices. Mrs. Freeman drops us outside the principal's office, goes in and shuts the door. And just like that, I'm in trouble for something I didn't do. Something I've never done in my life. How did I get here? Chapter 9, Troublemaker for Life. When Mrs. Freeman comes outside again, I try to explain. Again. She just tells me to take it up with Mr. Dial. Who? I say. The principal, she says. Who do you think? I've never met Mr. Dial before. He's brand new this year. Union Middle School goes through principals the way the Cleveland Browns goes through coaches. But that's not what I'm stressing about. I'm wondering what Mr. Dial is going to do when I get inside that office. I mean, I'm the victim here. This is all a big misunderstanding. I just need a chance to explain. And everything will be okay, right? When the door opens, there's a short, bald man standing there with a nasty-looking tie and an even nastier frown. I guess that's Mr. Dial. Inside, he says, let's go. When we get inside the office, he has 3 files out on his desk. I can see my name on one of them, Kenneth Lewis Wright. Now I start to sweat. Something about that file gives me a bad feeling. That and the way Mr. Dial is just staring at us. You know, it takes me 10 seconds to size up a student, he says. Even less for the troublemakers, and in my book, that's what you 3 are, troublemakers. Then he starts to scribble something in those files, including my file. I don't know what's worse, the scribbling or the staring. But I didn't do anything, I say. No lie. He says and keeps on writing. Quashi, man, I say to Quashi W, tell him I just got caught in the middle for real. It's true, Mr. Quashi says. Wait, what was your name again? Mr. Dial just looks up, shakes his head and pulls 3 pink slips out of his desk drawer. Are those detention slips, I say? They're not party invitations, he says. I can hardly believe it. But Mr. Dial isn't looking at me anymore, and he doesn't want to hear any lip, or excuses, or even what really happened. First thing after school on Friday, you 3 will report for detention, Mr. Dial says. But, I say, that's it. But, now get back to class. But Mr. Dial, I say. Go, he says, while I'm still in a good mood. And that's when I know I'm dead. Jima's gonna skin me alive when she finds out about this. I mean, if she finds out. Which I guess means one thing. I have to make sure she never does. Somehow. Chapter 10. No good, low down, dirty dog. Mr. Dial has me down as an official troublemaker now. That's jacked up. And Gma's at the school 3 afternoons a week? Man, this is not going to be easy. If she hears about my detention, I'm done like Shaq's short rap career. I guess I could try to explain, but look how that went with Mrs. Freeman and Mr. Dial. Maybe Gma would get it. Or maybe she'd come down on me even harder than ever. I'll be getting called Grandma's boy for so long they'll have to start calling me Grandma's really old man. When I get home, I go straight to my room and hide my head inside a book. It's not that hard to do. Our apartment's like a library. Jima's got bookshelves in every room in the house, even the bathroom. No kidding. At home, I have to read every day. That's the rule. Even Saturday and Sunday. Even Easter and Thanksgiving. Right now, I'm holding my copy of Bud Not Buddy in front of me like some kind of shield. We're reading it for English, which I figure will make Jima happy. She thinks it's one of the best books ever. In fact, I already read it last year. Kenneth, Jima says, and I almost jump out of my skin. I called your name 3 times. Are you reading or daydreaming? Reading, I say. Just so you know, we're eating early tonight. Then we've got a neighborhood meeting, she tells me. Can't I stay home, please, I ask. Even though I know the answer, I always have to go to these neighborhood meetings of hers. It's a whole lot of yakety yak most of the time. No, sir, she tells me. In fact, I want you to say a few words tonight. What? I say. What kind of words? About what it's like to go to that rundown school of yours. That's what the meeting's about. Jima's all about words. She likes books, she likes conversation, and as you can tell, she likes talking a lot. As for me, I'm all about saying as little as possible right now. I don't know, Jima, I tell her. You really think people care about what I have to say? The way she looks at me, I can feel the lecture coming on like a thunderstorm. Kenneth Lewis Wright, she says. Don't you think a decent education is worth speaking up for? Well, yeah, I say, but words are our weapons against what's wrong in the world. She keeps going. Why do you suppose Mr. Christopher Paul Curtis bothered to write that book in your hand? To tell a story, I say. Yes, but why, she says. I think about it for a second, because he had something to say. Now Jima smiles like I made her proud. It's kind of the best feeling in the world. But it doesn't last long because then I remember that I'm also a low-down, no-good, lying dog of a grandson. Tonight, I want you to tell your story, Jima says. Everyone has one, and every story's valuable. You're old enough to understand that now. I want to say, I'm also old enough to stay home alone, but instead, I quit while I'm ahead. Or at least while I'm still alive. What time's the meeting, I say?